Hello, everyone, and welcome to Valorant League. We're on week 3. I'm here. I'm Matt, also known as Mighty Sloth, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-caster, Bloxer. How are we feeling going into this game?
Oh yeah, super good. Should be a really fun matchup right here with some very interesting champions. We're obviously jumping in just after the champion select, and already things are a little bit wild.
Yeah, we're seeing Centurions. They're on the red side. We're seeing Meats, which is on our blue side. We're seeing some interesting picks, highlighting that Bel'Veth support mainly that we were talking about going into draft pick. It's an awkward one, but can it work out?
I mean, possibly, however, not necessarily into this Varus plus Rakan combo. They are long range enough that you shouldn't be getting up into the face of the opposition as the Belveth. It's going to be a pretty tricky one to navigate. The entire team composition for meat is just sort of get onto one person, blow them up, see if you can catch a couple, possibly, in that Malphite ultimate, in that Wukong cyclone. But it's going to be a pretty tall order for meat. Whereas Centurion, they've got a much more standard front to back composition with a little bit of wombo combo that you get out of an Orianna, but that doesn't need to be the main focus. Your Viego just needs one kill to reset, and your Varus should be far enough back, laying down the damage that it just makes a lot of sense as a composition.
Yeah, definitely, and it's on both sides to really find that pick potential because you were talking about meets that wombo combo. They've got to find it on this Varus and Oriana. If they can't do that, they're just gonna be rain free because this Varus is opting for with the ADC changes, they've gone for that lethal tempo, the on hit Varus, and that wombo combo potential from both sides. It's gonna be on both teams to hit their ultimates and try and find spaces where they find those easy picks, get that Viego running, get that Olaf into the backline. So both teams, I can see their vision when they're going into team fights. It's just if they can execute it going into the early stages and transitioning into the mid game.
Yeah, it's going to be, like we said, a tall order, but between these two teams, it should be a really interesting matchup. If we take a look sort of more at the breakdown of individual lanes, this top lane matchup, it shouldn't be getting too interesting. A Malphite is definitely tanky enough to be able to withstand an Olaf, but we've seen Olafs pull out crazier plays, and once you can start landing a couple of those axes, it can get just a little bit interesting. The real place where we will be watching is, of course, the bot lane, and then tracking our junglers around. Can a Wukong find ganks during the early game? Often you have to wait until you hit level 6, at which point a Viego is more than good enough to be able to pick up a couple of kills and begin that snowball early.
Yeah, definitely, and it's going to be pivotal for these junglers because we can obviously see the Wukong. They're either going to opt into getting this Malphite as far ahead as Olaf as they can, putting that Olaf in a very nice deficit, or we're going to see this, transition going into the bot side of the map because, with a Seraphine Belveth, it's, a unconventional team comp as we are slowly getting down onto the Rift. So going obviously into the early stages of the game, what do you feel like you wanting to see from both sides? Because both of them going to have different game plans going on the jugglers. We do see First Blood already picked up from the Belveth support. That's something unprecedented. I didn't realize a quick early run was going to be prioritized there.
No, not necessarily, especially versus a Varus. You're in a matchup where you're getting pushed in quite a lot, but we said that the matchup bot lane would be tricky. I need to be careful here. Is going to get jumped on.
Kez hitting the W there. Easy disengage from the Vi guys. See Kyoya here. Go looking for the all in onto TRSI. Gets that shield up. Can he hit another undertow? No, I feel like he just backs off. He's got the support of a Drigger there. But an explosive start. Already 4 minutes into the game. Belveth picking up first blood. And there's no really opposite sides from Centurion.
No, you can't just sit in this bot lane as the Belveth. You will just get poked out, pushed in constantly. And as a Seraphine, you're able to sit quite far back and be relatively safe. It makes a lot of sense in such a scenario to roam your Belveth around. Still, though, not what we were expecting whatsoever. And hey, we were worried. As okay.
Ooh, Olaf getting confidence there. Kyoya picking up a kill onto the Malphite. So that's what you were talking about originally in draft, me and you. It's just Olaf having that advantage over the Malphite, and it's on Wukong to either, push around with this Belveth and support this Malphite. Otherwise, Olaf, I feel like, has now got this comfortable lead that they hopefully can transition onto later.
Most definitely, because you've taken that kill, that first blood, sure, but it's down onto your Belveth support. Whilst you do want them to get ahead, your Olaf up in the top lane getting a little bit more damage onto them as Cnturion is going to be massive. You can either split push, just constantly put the pressure on, or come into these team fights possibly on a flank if you can find them, and really shred through the backline. Olaf got changed up a little bit. His ultimate can now just keep stacking. It's made him a formidable threat coming into the mid game. as this mid lane just is not slowing down. Action-packed supports ending up in here. Jungles, you see Bel'Veth once again roamed up, and although no kills happen this time, it's pretty indicative of how I think the rest of this game will play out.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's mostly going to be on like who can outrun who moves first, who has those roaming timers, who has that set up. Because this Wukong Bel'Veth can be a lethal combo if you're getting onto the likes of the Varus. We're seeing, it's weird shaping up. Obviously, Viego not having an impact yet, and Wukong slowly, got that easy kill in the mid lane, and it's all on mid lane. That's what I'm expecting to see. Olaf here getting aggressive here, getting a lot of damage, misses the axe there. This is something we expected though. Having Olaf having this early advantage through the use of the axes and the W, obviously having that shield, it's making this Malphite lane pretty unbearable.
Yeah, every single undertow that the Olaf is landing just shreds through the help of Tiara.
Yeah,
But
TRS,
on the other hand, it's still a Malphite is still going to be useful during these big team fights. Really fascinated by the spot lane.
Hits the W there. Seraphine hitting the root, and it's just going to be these short trades. These two carries, obviously the Seraphine and the Varus, don't really pick up on damage until you get those 2-3 items. So it's going to be interesting to see who actually hits those power spikes first. But it's exactly what you said to me. Going into stress, we see a couple of trades going down side. It's a nice route onto the Varus, onto the Rakan. Sorry, hits the ignite. An easy trick picked from Viego. So that's the nice back I want to see from Cnturion. As it hits a 2-man stun in the cage. A nice Seraphine route comes onto 2 Bel'Veth. Wow. That was a wombo combo that we love to see. Bel'Veth rooting down 4 members bot, looking for the dive onto the Varus. Do they actually pick it up though? It might be an easy dive, getting that Wukong clone out. Viego hitting a nice bit of damage. Execute goes down, and Varus actually finds the, in the 1v4. Kills down 2. Olaf, there's battles all over the map, and Olaf here trading onto this Malphite. That was a bit chaotic, a bit hectic. I feel as if Meat there got a bit too aggressive.
Yeah, it was not a particularly well executed dive. Unfortunately, your Wukong does just die, execute to the tower, whilst it's not the end of the world, not great. And then Cowards ends up getting taken out by this Varus, giving over a little bit of shutdown gold as well. It was only 150, but still, that's a chunk of extra income into the back pocket of your Varus that you did not need to give over. Could have just been happy with getting the push in, getting the couple of kills off your wombo combo, like you said, and moving away. Instead, over aggression, the kind of thing that we do expect to see from teams at this level, but still, First Drake did go over to the side of Cnturion, and so they are sitting in quite a comfortable position. I am slightly worried about the fact that this Seraphine is ahead on farm, despite the fact that the Bel'Veth has been roaming around and not just sat in lane. You'd expect to see Chi being able to pull ahead in farm, instead actually down by about 10.
Yeah, I feel as if, the Seraphine's are quite a safe option for that. Farming tools with your E's and Q's are just making it a lot safer for Bel'Veth to, scatter around the map. And that's probably the main game plan that Meat's actually adopting. Having that Wukong and Bel'Veth duo just go around the map and try and find picks. It's what you want to see. As Bel'Veth hitting another W, Seraphine ult comes out, another route comes down. Double Q does down, I don't think, almost falls. See that Bel'Veth W coming in clutch. Varus now dishing out a bit more damage. He's trying to turn this, gets the pop down with a max stacked Q. So that's the nice return I wanted to see. Varus down on CS, but knowing that the power spike, once Bel'Veth uses all the dashes in the W, it's kind of, doesn't have that output burst that, expect from a jungle Bel'Veth.
The Royal Maelstrom just keeping them alive for a bit longer, but ganking the top lane.
Yeah, hitting 2 tower shots there. Or looking a bit too aggressive. Kyoya, falling there. Didn't pop the ult to counteract that Malphite under tower, so it was kind of a misplay.
Yeah, definitely taking 2 turret shots in a matchup like that, you really can't do it. Sure, you're a lot stronger than the Malphite, but you don't really have that sort of survivability yet to be able to dive. You're only sat right there, on an axe, on a little bit of healing, nothing particularly strong, so just going to get taken out. Mid lane trading back and forth, only getting interesting really once the rest of the map gets involved, once these supports come up, once these junglers decide to try. We've got ourselves a Rift Herald up and available 9 minutes into the game. Nobody's particularly looking at it so far, but both of the junglers are in the area. Big team fights should at the moment be going towards Meat is boosted. They've got a much stronger wombo combo composition, as well as the fact that Dragon now has that level 6. That's a massive power spike for your Wukong.
Yeah, that's the danger button, the Cyclone going down onto this Orianna and onto this Varus. It spells danger for the likes of Centurion's side. See Viego here, finally a pick onto the clone. Not much else going on. Well, left here for the spot though, hits the undertow. Rakan hits a very nice double W. Cyclone comes out, Orianna Shockwave comes down. Belveth having to flash out to safety, and it's an easy pick down from the side of Cnturion. A nice use of their, composition abilities to just find that Wukong and force him into an uncomfortable space.
Whilst Meat is boosted looking for a big wombo combo, Cnturion wants to find one person and blow them up, turn it into a reset for the Viego and keep running through the fight. Obviously that was just one pick right there, but you still saw the way that the Olaf plus Viego combo can deal so much damage. Undertow at this point is just shredding whoever it comes across, and that is going to be converted into a Rift Herald 2. At only 10.5 minutes into the game, you've still got a decent amount of time to put it wherever you want to pick up some turret plating. I could see it going into the top lane to unlock the Olaf onto the rest of the map, but honestly, I think all three of these lanes are a decent prospect. Mid lane tower, the highest priority of all of them, but mid lane's actually had the least amount of action so far.
Yeah, and that's something we expected. The Oriana's not really got much pressure on that. Obviously, that past team fight, as we see the Malphite ult gets engaged on. Olaf is CC immune though. Pops the Ghost, trying to run down TRSI. Has the healing. I don't know who actually comes out on top here. It's a blow for blow. Pops the Ghost for the Malphite ult. Both pops ult. Malphite flash down. I feel like the Olaf's definitely comfortable with that. Obviously getting a bit over aggressive and couldn't find the kill, but getting a flash on a Malphite and an ult on a Malphite just lowers the pressure for the likes of the Viego and the Oriana.
It really does, especially because you're sat in a situation where you're building damage as this Olaf. You're going straight towards that Ravenous Hydra build. You're gonna have to get a couple of kills to be able to finance such an aggressive build, whereas TRSI just going full tank. That's a lot cheaper. Possible gank down in the bot lane, but instead things are just going to fizzle out. Junglers might be meeting in the river though.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate that Kez is not really hit tick to 6 there, whereas the Varus is sitting nice at level 8, having that Rage Knife, so this on-hit Varus is going to come online around about your 2-3 item power spike, as I said earlier. But, transitioning, around this 13-minute mark, coming up to 13 minutes, Drakes are spawning. Both team comps, finding their feet in terms of what they want to do. They've shown it. They've shown that they can force their plays onto the opposition, but it's who executes it better, because on the side of Meats, their game plan is quite a lot easier to execute compared to Cnturion.
Definitely is. There's also a teleport available for TRSI. There isn't one for Kyoya, so that is a possible swing factor, but right now total pit control by Meat is boosted. They're able to waltz into this one right now, fully bully out Cnturion and turn back to this Drake if they want it. If not, they can just keep trying to compete for this mid lane.
I feel like they might just compete for it and hopefully force someone on the side of Cnturion to overpush, like the Viego or this Rakan. They found him in a cage. Can they make the pick? Overy comes down. Seraphine comes through. Now no 5 picks down Kez. And that's a Belveth ult picked up. They've obviously picked that form up. The Centurion's finding the turn down. Viego comes down. Doesn't take down the Belveth. But here comes Olaf picking up the ult. Malphite ult is completely immune to that. Flying onto the backline, picking up a triple kill. He's now gonna shred the Malphite. Doesn't have any escape kills.
Oh,
no
boy.
flash. Quadra kill for the side of Kyoya. That roam down pivotal.
Yeah, there was a teleport used by TRSI, but Kyoya, he does not need it. Just waltzes his way down, manages to pick himself up that quadra kill, and you can see just how much power this Olaf has. Once you manage to build yourself up that Ravenous Hydra, you deal so much damage and are healing for so much. It's exactly what you want. And in the previous 1v1 fights versus TRSI, the Olaf ultimate was not used perfectly. All of a sudden it was being used just after all of the CC was coming out of the Malphite, which is not what you want. The Ragnarok is allowing you to get around all of the CC. This time around, had it popped, Malphite ult just completely misses, and you're able to just keep running through people. Of course, Malphite does scale a lot better than the Olaf, but keep going.
Comes down mid here. 905 actually gets ignited here. The Belveth coming in for a bit of support, but Chi here getting on the aggressive, finds that comfortability.
Find it.
Pops on the Q, misses, ignited, ticking. Do they fall? No, they don't fall. They survive on a slither of health. But yeah, exactly what you were saying. It came off the back of Belveth getting a bit too aggressive, trying to find that Blossom to, hit that form up. But we see Drigger here, finding Kez with a short trade. Kez here, has been all around the map, finding and supporting, Cat and both Chi. So it's nice to see that. It's alongside those supports, both supports finding these roaming opportunities. And overall, they're both being quite pivotal in this fight.
They really are. It's testament to the AD carries that neither of them have managed to get themselves killed during just 1v1s, 1v2s, where they've been sat in their lanes. Once again, Kyoya.
Yeah, Kyoya on the aggressive. Pops Ghost, Pops Ragnarok. Malphite can't do anything. Now that they did have ult, but couldn't actually find it off. once that flashes down, Kyoya knows that Ace is just a rundown angle. Having that 7 and 1 and fully stacked Ravenous, it's an Olaf shred case. See, Oriana
Oh
comes
boy.
down onto Silas. Although they backed
Ooh.
off that, I feel like they didn't want to over-aggress because I feel like the Wukong just came into vision.
Oh.
See Barasol come down. Seraphine hits 2 people. Kez onto the backline, hits down the Charm. Cyclone comes down. Another route misses. Flashes into the backline, finds the likes of Chi. Trigger here, keeping their team alive as they can't find Kez. Trigger, you know, finding that aggressive play onto the backline, hitting that cyclone onto 3 members. We see Mimi shield here, might get the reset. 1 onto the Belvath. Cat here, going low, taking round from the red buff. Finding an up onto Trigger. Wow, that was a very nice and well-played fight from both sides. You obviously saw it going both ways. We see
Yeah.
Kyoya here, the fight's still carrying on. Can they fill it onto Welsi? Do they just go for the dive? No, they can't. That
It
was it.
just is gonna fizzle out. That was risky, you know. Kyoya, if he'd have landed that on the toe, then there was a possibility. Fight kicked off with a Chains of Corruption being landed. Not actually able to burst out Wellesley, though. Interestingly, you'd expect for the Seraphine to be able to be taken out pretty quickly, but the Leandri's build, it does give you a little bit more health, makes you a tiny bit tankier.
It was well kicked off from the side of Cnturion. I thought that, you know, once Welsi hit that 3-man ultimate, it could have gone a different way, especially with Drigger picking up an easy double kill with a Cyclone. I thought that was, you know, that was Meat's opportunity to come back into this game, but well fought by Chi and Kez. You know, those duos with the Varus and the Rakan, you know, quite nicely kiting out, and obviously Kyoya coming in for support. I feel as if Cnturion have them roaming timers and their supporting timers for people to move around the map. They have it well executed, whereas on the likes of, you know, Meat, 905 hasn't really been present. They obviously found those early picks with the cage, but they haven't really transitioned that going into the 16-minute mark.
They haven't, and this is really indicative of the way that this game is going to go, that team fight. Kyoya wasn't there, and as such, the team fight was pretty even, because sure, there's a pretty decent gold lead right now, about 3k onto Cnturion, but it is all on Kyoya. Every single bit of that gold lead right now is on that 7 and 1 Olaf, who has completed 2 full items when everybody is just finishing up their first one. So far ahead, and so in teamfights when you don't have him around, it's not actually that much of a lead, and you need to be really careful as Cnturion. Meters boosted need to continue playing around situations where they don't have to worry about this Olaf, but this Rift Herald's going to have all 5 members of Cnturion around it. It's going to be a nice, easy pickup. The response, though, is a tower down on the bot lane.
Yeah, and finding that they're having to trade on the other side of the map when you realize you don't have as much control with Kyoya walking around the map happily with a 7-1 lead. It's quite hard for me to try and, you know, find angles to build back that goal lead. They're only, you know, sitting nicely at 3k gold behind. It's obviously not too much of a detriment. They can bring it back, but it's finding, you know, that wombo combo and that pick, and hopefully 905 can be more vocal in these team fights, because it's with that ult, as we see the Rift Herald getting placed here, they're gonna opt for this 5-man top lane push.
Why not? You have full vision down bot side. You know that your opposition has been pushing in, and they're not going to be able to get back quite as quickly. So at least going to charge onto this inhibitor turret. Unlikely that there's going to be any further follow-up, because why would you? As meat is boosted, you've picked up everything that you want. You can now go for a reset. The Drake is spawning in less than a minute's time. So until that point, pick up your items, return to this team fight, and watch Kyoya. Does he decide to join this team fight? If so, it is going to be severely in the favour of Cnturion. If he's not around, though, then it's much more even.
Yeah, I feel like Kyoya is just opting, you know, if Centurions can find this dragon and they can get to that soul point, there's so much pressure on them up. They can opt for Barons, they can opt for more objective pushing. And it's going to be mostly on how they can lock down this Olaf, because once you pick Ragnarok, you have to try and get the disengage. And we see a nice pick onto his Rakan here, easy disengage with the W. Barasol actually comes out here. Here's Kyoya though, what can they actually do? They're fighting Trigger right now.
Alone.
The Ragnarok comes out, focuses 905, but they're getting bursted completely as the re-engage comes in for Cnturion. A 3-man Seraphine ult comes down, Malphite comes down. Whilst he picks down Kez, Belvath here gets the reset. 905 picking up the Varus. Ragnarok is still just gone down. And Kyoya here, what can they actually do? They're hitting the undertow, they're still going in. TRSI falls, and it's just a messy team fight. You know, the Belvath was allowed to get so many resets. Seraphine was left alone for most of that fight. And 905 is very vocal that team fight, you know, picking off the ult, hitting a beautiful cage, and overall dishing so much more damage to the side of Cnturion.
It's unfortunate for Cnturion that Kyoya went in and the rest of the team just wasn't there. Everybody else had reset, he hadn't, and so he went in for the fight. Yeah, sure, he was 7 and 1, but you're still not that strong that you can straight up 1v5, and the rest of the team just gets there a little bit late. It was a brilliantly hit Seraphine ult. You know, that encore out of Wellesley manages to tag onto 3 members, and you're just CC'd up for so much time that this Belvath's actually able to make it work. You know, we're questioning the Belvath support, but Silas plays it all the time. You know, it is his main thing that he likes to pick up, Silas and then the Bel'Veth support. And sure, it's a little bit odd, but if you've practiced it a lot, pocket picks at this level are kind of everything. And it's such an odd one that you're unlikely to have opponents who really know how to deal with it.
Yeah, I think like that unconventional playstyle is really opting into this comeback shown by Meat. So it's nice to see the Bel'Veth, obviously the build that they're going through. Deadman's picked up first, obviously going for that early engage burst damage, you know, with the Wombo combo team comp they've drafted. And now it's on, you know, Centurion's been knocked back. They've been blown quite a heavy deal. Obviously that Bel'Veth getting resets and, you know, 905, I did question their being vocal in team fights, but they're now 3-0-4, having a nice lead over the Orianna. We're just gonna see how that transitions though. You know, we're hitting the 20-minute mark. We're in the mid-game stage of the game. And overall, I feel as if Centurion, they found their footing with getting this Olaf ahead, but the rest of the team, they're not, you know, they're not too organized. You know, Curia going in very early in that team fight and not having that support. It was overall blundered.
It was not a clean team fight, and that's what you need to do when you have this kind of front-to-back composition. The point isn't the Olaf running through the backline, it's getting Mimi's shield that first kill to get into those Viego resets and to be able to run through the rest of the map like that. Whereas just going flying straight into the backline as Kyoya, sure, it distracts everybody, but if the rest of your team isn't there, it's not useful. See if this next team fight can be a little bit cleaner, but of course you have to remember that Meat is boosted, has a great team fighting composition. If you're able to land that unstoppable force with the Cyclone, that's so much CC that your opposition are going to have a very tricky time trying to survive through. So perhaps just find a pick first with the Varus, use those Trains of Corruption, and then come into these team fights in a 4v5. That's the way to win it for Cnturion.
I feel as if that's what Kyoya's opting for. They're trying to, you know, go in earlier to maybe burst some of those pivotal cooldowns, but it overall just doesn't work. So I can see what's in the mind of Kyoya, obviously trying to get that unstoppable force, trying to get the Cyclone down on them, you know, like pieces of damage so that, you know, Chi and Cat are safe on that backline, but it obviously wasn't well executed. Obviously, they're still at a nice gold lead. Varus is starting to pick up maybe the second item, obviously going for that. I believe it's Wit's End they're going for the second item, which is very nice. You know, the amount of magic damage I've just realized on the side of Meat is boosted is quite, you know, nicely distributed. So we're just going to see, you know, what the itemization is, because Olaf here opted for the third item. You might be seeing the fight down closer on the mid lane. This is where all the action's actually going down, in these two rivers around the mid lane.
Also really need to keep our eyes on 905. You wanted him to assert himself, and he's been doing a pretty good job of that coming into this mid game right here. Completed those two full items. Got the Ceres, got the Rod, and it means that he's just able to deal a lot of burst damage to whoever you pick, and you've got a very immobile composition for Cnturion. Your Orianna's not going to be able to get away, neither is your Varus, and so if you could just pick off two of the main damage threats, it's a great way to start a fight. But right here, Cnturion going for the divisive play straight to the Baron, and I don't think Meat is boosted knows this is happening.
No, I don't know they do. We're obviously seeing a teleport come down though. So maybe they've got clues that it's going on. We see Shirorias get popped. TRSI is a nice position. They've actually split their team fight very, very well. Flashing from the Bel'Veth doesn't connect with anything though. So I feel like that they were hinted at the play, but you know, maybe too early to pull on the trigger. It's gonna be nice to see how they actually maybe find a re-engage with TRSI. They've got that ult up. They haven't got flash. They're just gonna have to try and pound the Varus. But it's exactly what you were saying. 905, you know, they've got so much damage, but they've also got so much survivability. Once that Rod of Ages and that Zhonya's is completed, they're gonna be, you know, they're not going to be your first pick contact, because that's really what you want from Kyoya, to get on this Vigor, burst him down, get through that cage. But now that 905 has got, you know, quite a lot of tanky stats, it's going to be quite a hard task for, you know, the likes of Mimi's Shield and Kyoya to find that pick.
The 400 health that you get out of that Rod of Ages is really useful, you know, it can take you quite far in these team fights, but 905 hasn't really been that threatened during these team fights, either playing from very far back, just using the baby cage to slow down the opposition, that you're not going to get jumped on too often, and it can stop the pick potential of the Cnturion composition. If they can't actually run at you as an Olaf, obviously once he pops the ult, that's alright, but that means that the rest of the team can't follow up, and you get another situation where Kyoya just caught out by himself, possibly like this.
Kyoya here opting to pop the Ragnarok and just get a bit of damage onto the Bel'Veth, but has to fall back after they've been ignited. So that's a nice opening play from the likes of Meat is boosted, trying to force Kyoya into a, you know, an unhealthy situation. As you see, Kez has to flash away from the baby cage. You know, 905 here has a lot of cooldown reduction. They've probably opted for, maybe a mixture of points in W&E. We obviously can't see that, but I'd hope 905 has opted to, max that, cage as much as they can. I feel as if Cnturion here, they're opting to maybe look for the Baron, but TRSI here spots out Kez. We're going to see how TRSI plays in defense, because that Malphite was going to be so pivotal. And they're looking for it. It's Kez here, pops the ultimate, gets stunned down by the baby cage, is obviously bursted by 905. Varus ult comes down, Seraphine ult is also layered onto it, but TRSI here falls down to Cutest Ket. And now the fight's looking a bit more in Cnturion's favor. Wukong still was, hovering around that bot side, and Kyoya here getting low, seeing if they can take down cowards, but they got bursted on by Digger. So it's a very nice fight. Start from Cnturion, but it's it's not opted as Mimic Shield. It's actually getting picked here, gets caught out by the baby cage, has the ult over the wall. Ket here is getting uprooted. I feel as if the Bellwether's got a bit too aggressive here. They might fall down to the Varus, they fall down to Ket. 905 chasing down Chi. See if they can find that baby cage again. I feel like it's the end of the fight. They've got to all disengage. And overall, a sloppy fight from both sides, missing pivotal team fight ultimates, but it's quite even. It's only a 2 for 2.
And you can see Mimic Shield's just still trying to get away. There's a lot of vision down here for Meat is boosted, so it's just gonna have to base through. And this should turn into I was gonna say an easy enough Drake, but instead, possibly a nice flank position for Meat Shield. Here we go. Well, Z, they started it up.
Yeah, and Ket's here is obviously the main target. Mimic Shield's still quite low. Orianna comes out though, and that's the reset. That's beautiful from the side of Cnturion. Finding that pick for Viego to be a bit more healthy, especially with the Wukong. That's a nice. Well, it's probably one of your main picks that you want to get down on the Viego. See how Meat is boosted though. Can actually re-engage in his Dragon Pit. They have got 4 members closing in on side of Cnturion. As Ricardo comes down, Unstoppable Forces onto 2. Cnturion comes to the fight a bit too late. 905 picks down the Varus. We're seeing what the fight goes down. 3-man Seraphine ult comes down, but they're left alone. Olaf here going huge again. It's another story. Gets the Drake beautifully, and I think it's another Kyoya show down in this bot river. Can they get down the quadra kill that they did earlier? TRSI here trying to fight for their life. Doesn't pick down Ket though. Ket saving their life, and Orianna picking another kill. And that's what I wanted to see. The Orianna finally showing up with some of these beautiful ults. As the fight's still going on, Kyoya here is trying to chase down Silas cowards. And it's overall, Centurion's finding a way back into what they were, having a dominant lead. And do they find this Belveth in the end? I don't think they will actually opt for it. Try and seem to escape with a recall, but they definitely know where Belveth is.
I'm well aware, Kyoya, if he just lands one of these undertows, should be able to chase them down. Silas absolutely booking it. And to be fair, Belveth is one of the better champions for a run like this. Flash forwards out of Kyoya is finally going to land that undertow. Gets that pickup, and this is going to be a fight won just about for Cnturion, but it is super back and forth. Beyond that, it's the 3rd Drake soul point now for Cnturion, and a ton of kills into good places. Sure, Kyoya has picked up a lot more for himself, but more importantly, Cutest Ket beginning to stack those items now at 2 and a bit, well on the way to that 3rd. With Leandri's going to be burning through people. Over on the other side, though, it looked to be a pretty good team fight. TRSI landing a huge unstoppable force, but all of a sudden, into the backline, Wellesley just got blown up, as did 905, and that's sort of the turning point. 905, up until that point, had been avoiding death, and then all of a sudden gets blown up, and that's a ton of your damage just gone for Mooty's boosted.
Yeah, and that's obviously the Kyoya show, getting onto that backline, killing the Seraphine, and then having that armor shreds onto 905. It just really shifts a team fight once Kyoya, once Kyoya goes in after, some cooldowns have been blown. He's quite useful in finding those picks. We're seeing them opt into the Baron, but TRSI finding a huge unstoppable force. Belveth with a W.
Oh,
nice. Cyclone onto 4 members. 5 members have been caught up in this massive CC chain, and it's a beautiful wombo combo. Ace from the side of Meat is boosted.
Oh, the unstoppable force directly into the encore out of Wellesley. Manages to tag onto all 5 members, and that is the wombo combo that Meat is boosted have been looking for consistently. Cnturion were hovering around this Baron pit, trying to pick it up. Sneakily, it was not working, always spotted out, and TRSI kicks off what is a huge turning point fight right here. We are back to dead even gold, and these teams do not stop fighting.
Yeah, they're obviously they're going blow for blow, a very scrappy team fights, but that was beautifully executed from Meat is boosted, layering that very nice CC chain. They obviously didn't blow it all at once. They hit one after another, and it paid off beautifully. They've obviously practiced this, I hope, because it looked very well organized and well executed. I don't think Cnturion were obviously expecting that, because Kyoya was kind of left alone once all his team members got, CC layered, and he couldn't really do much, even though he has that 12, 4, and 2 stat line. So it's very nice nice to see that Meat is boosted, signs of life after being behind throughout this whole entire game.
Just got word that it might be the teams the other way round. We were definitely given that TRSI was on Meat is boosted, but it is... Ah. Okay, right. Everything we said so far, flip it on its head.
So Meat is boosted is the side of Kyoya.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense. That means that Meat is on the side of Meat is boosted.
Yeah, okay, so retract what we've been saying this whole time. Meat is boosted, now in a deficit, and Centurion's finding this way into the game now by hitting a very nice Vigor ult, trying to see if Mimichu can take them down. Nice flash away. Can they get the returning kill, though? I feel like Viego just disengages here. So, apologies for the bit of confusions on the teams, but we are, back to normal. The side of Kyoya, Mimi, Cutest Cat, Chi, and Kez, that is Meat is boosted. Whereas on the other side of our blue team, that is Centurions.
Indeed. No worries on that one, though. So, flipping our expectations around. See Centurion pushing their way forwards right now. With this Baron buff, they're sat in a very nice position. And after what had been a little bit of a struggle during the early stages of the game, they should be able to break these inhibitor towers pretty easily and push towards the end at this point.
Yeah, so obviously the layers of ults coming down. They're just trying to find any angle they can with this Baron buff to get as many advantages. They've broken into the base here. Trigger finding a very nice cycle on Tooth, forcing the flashes away, but this is where the Belveth means come in. I didn't actually expect that. I obviously forgot that was one of Belveth's very, very nice passives. Seeing a very nice siege come down, but this is a wombo combo up themselves. TRSI only gets onto one, and it's a sloppy fight from both sides, missing some ultimates, but Kyoya here is still left alive in the 2 versus 3. We'll see who can actually make it out alive, though. Kyoya still hitting down. Kez trying to hit that shield down, but 3 members then turn on to Kyoya. Can he find it? He finds one. He's healing a ridiculous amount. TRSI falls, and it's all on to Drigger to try and find the double kill, and he can't. Wow, Kyoya stepping up yet again. That looked very, very unfortunate to see if Kyoya would fall, but he fought 3 members almost single-handedly and won out that fight.
And they're going to be able to head straight over towards this Drake. Is spawned, and there's 30 seconds until most of the members are up and available. Trigger specifically, so no smite right now for Cnturion. This will be Soul right here. 4 meters boosted. But will it matter? Because they are all of a sudden losing an inhibitor down towards the bottom side of a map, and their composition does get outscaled. Olaf is strong, sure, but the strongest point of Olaf is in the first 15-20 minutes. We are well beyond this point, and so meters boosted are still sitting in a nice position despite being down an entire soul.
Obviously, Centurions, they're opting for this Varus. We've not really seen them, dish up the damage that we've needed them to see. Obviously, the Orianna coming online slowly. They've got that 3-item power spike. Viego not finding as many resets as they'd like to, and it's all on the side of meters boosted and to try and force Centurions into uncomfortable situations when they've got this much of a lead.
Yeah, you've just got to try to keep pushing your opposition, make them feel a little bit uncomfy. When you're even on gold, but one team's going to outscale, it can be the sort of tipping point. Is meters boosted going to be able to just keep steady? That composition will do better the later we get, or is Cnturion going to find a way to fight back?
Well, we hope so, because it's on both sides now that you're dead even. They're just trying to fight. Obviously, fighting into a soul is always unfortunate, and that obviously opens the Elder Drake up. So I feel as if that's the next fighting crucial point. If the side of Cnturion can't find anything now, they're just going to opt for that Elder Drake, because it's with a team fight wombo combo ult. They're going to have to play for that Elder Drake if they can't find a Baron opportunity, an objective push opportunity, especially with TRSI's unstoppable force. It's going to be interesting to see which team transitions going into these next couple of fights, because they are game ending. If you can't find more than 3 members, I think it spells game over for you, especially with the pushing power that Cnturion has.
Most definitely. The only thing that is sort of keeping both of these teams alive for the minute is the amount of wave clear. Especially Cnturion, they are pushing forwards incredibly strong. At least meters boosted has got enough wave clear to be able to just sit back and absorb. With the open inhibitor down towards the bottom side, she's managed to pick up a lot of farm, but still has only completed 2 items and is working on another, but nowhere near completing that at this point.
Yeah, and it's a struggle when you're this far behind trying to complete those items going into these late team fights. It's a struggle that most players see once you get into the later stage of the game with, say, a fed top side, you feel kind of hopeless. But I feel as if both competitions, it can go either way. It's on a nice edge, definitely. We're just gonna see who can pull the trigger first. Because with a wombo combo ult like the side of Centurion, I feel as if you already feel comfortable going into the next fight.
Yeah, you do. You've just got to find that nice little pickup opportunity. You can see the way both of these teams are just hanging out, not getting anything started quite yet. Baron is spawning in the next 10 seconds though. So there's another big team fight opportunity, and this is Centurion's time to play. They love to play around these choke points near the Baron pit in these objective fights. You see all 4 members right now grouped up. The only one not around is Silas, and they're just going to start up this Baron, and they're going to dare Meters Boosted to come try fight them.
And I feel as if Meters Boosted have to fall into this trap now, because, you know, with a wombo combo like this, they have to either go in from different sides. Viego finally over the wall and smiting the Baron away. Now it's Meters Boosted to try and find that pick onto TRSI. Rakan's ult comes down, picks onto 2 members, though, gets stunned up by the Vigar. That very nice Seraphine ult to try and separate Drigger from this fight. A lot of people haven't fallen, though, and that's really unexpected. Mimic Shield is the next target. Well, so you know, 2-man stun with a baby cage. And Centurions finding out on top, but Curious still here. Curious still here to fight 905 with the ult going down. The Viego resets are very, very crucial. 905 might fall here. TRSI's job is to try and find this nice double up route from the side of Rakan. And TRSI having to walk away wounded. Will they fall though? I feel as if they will. Viego pick up a very nice double kill after an amazing Baron steal. And now Meat is boosted in the driving seat of the game.
Yeah, they're losing a lot of turrets back in their base. They need to be careful. Send a couple members back. You're going to pick up this first inhibitor turret. Are they going to push forwards for this inhibitor? You do have Wellesley here, but won't be able to stop this push. It's at least going to be an inhibitor for an inhibitor.
Ragnarok is up, though. I feel as if your Kyoya, you just try and force it and end the game before, you know, Belveth and Wukong try and spawn. They're trying to burst on this turret here, finding the engage, but, you know, they're going to back off, though, because they realize that the Belveth, although is a weird build, is quite strong. We're seeing Wukong dive on here, though, finding the pick onto Kez. Doesn't quite find it, though, and Kyoya here going huge. Ragnarok completely negates the Seraphine ult. They find the pick onto the Seraphine, finding this onto Drigger. Kez goes in onto the Belveth, though, can't find the damage just yet, and Drigger and Kyoya battling it out. Kyoya coming out on top, and that's really what you want to see in a 2v3 situation.
Hang on, are they just going to be able to end this right here?
TRSI, though, says no, pops the ult down. Kyoya can't find the damage. And that's overall a very clutch ultimate from TRSI. Unstoppable Force, you know, closing that gap over the Nexus very, very cleanly.
And the fact that the Nexus doesn't quite fall, only about half HP left on it. This game is incredibly close. Next bit of push coming through. Cnturion, you know, they are looking to push their way back into this game, whereas Meat is boosted. They want to close it out.
They're going to have to try and close out, but with 3 members against, you know, Wukong and Seraphine coming out as the shockwave comes down. 905 though takes barely any damage. Here, flashing actually in. Mimi Shields getting a reset. 905
the Nexus.
End game. Cutest Cat can't find it just yet, and she ends the game. Wow, Nexus focus paid off, especially after that first pick.
Really did, and there we go. You're going to have your victors right here.
You know, Meat is boosted. You know, after the confusion of knowing which team is which, they kind of just stepped up. You know, both teams went behind, then forward, then behind and forward. And, you know, Meat is boosted, finding a very, very nice victory in the end.
It was a really clean play out of them towards the end. Sure, the early game was a little bit messy, and it looked like it was going to be iffy, but finally managed to find those team fights and just constant push onto the Nexus. Eventually, there was nothing that Cnturion could do.
Yeah, obviously that lead from Kyoya being very, very pivotal. So it's something that we have to look at going into the next game. If Kyoya gets a pick like this again and opens up the map, obviously he did fall behind and make some, let's say, riskier plays, but Kyoya opened up this map quite nicely. Obviously with the support of Mimic Shield coming online in the late stage of the game and Cutest Cat, what a comeback story, you know, being behind of 905, obviously getting really, really destroyed by some of these roams and then coming back in with very nice, you know, couple of shockwaves. It's what I really like to see from Mimic Shield.
Yeah, every player on that team managed to step up in a different way, managing to balance out the fact that Kyoya had a really nice early game, but towards the middle of the game, it felt so iffy, and everybody else stepped up. You know, sure, Kyoya might have gone a little bit too aggressive in a couple of scenarios, but they managed to fight back later on. Nobody just rolled over and let the game happen to them, tried to get carried by the Olaf, and that's the kind of thing that you want to see from a team.
Yeah, and definitely, you know, going into maybe more games, we're just gonna have to see what the teams they kind of draft, because both teams drafted very like different comps in terms of how they want a team fight. but then both executed very similar strategies. Obviously, TRSI being a main player, like with those team fights and those wombo combos setting it off. But I really liked how Meteor's Boosted counteracted that. Getting those Varus and those Rakan stuns to try and opt that disengage once the wombo combos came down. It was quite nice to see. Going into the next game, though, what are your expectations going for drafts? Because I don't think they're going to leave this Belvathel Silas open.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can, but at the same time, what else are you going to then leave on the table? There are a lot of very important bans that both of these teams made. The Cog, the Zeri had to come off the board, and then all of a sudden you're leaving big priority picks available if you want to take away this Belveth. But at the same time, you know that Silas kind of only likes to play the Silas, the Belveth, and the Camille in support. Doesn't have a particularly wide champion pool. If you ban all three of those, what do they play? That is a potential question.
Yeah, but then if you're target banning, Gibbs, Silas, Cowards, you got to look at the rest of the team. Wellesley, has a very diverse pool of ADCs and mages. Drigger here, obviously, you might not want to give them the Wukong, but obviously, Centurions. We're getting confirmation then who came out on victors, as there were quite a difficult technical difficulty on which side was which, but we'll get that to you soon. So Centurion won that game. They were obviously on blue side, so the confusion has been rearranged.
Yes, so
So
we
go.
were correct
We
during
were
the early
correct in the
stages.
first half, and then we changed, and now we're back to being correct. So Centurion's obviously okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So retract what I just said completely. Meat is boosted. Finding game one. So it's quite nice to see.
Yeah.
Obviously, for the next game, we'll get that completely confirmed to you which side is which, so that obviously we like our viewers to be quite informed going into the next game, and we'll just have to see what the team comes. Because obviously, we just mentioned target banning the likes of Centurion, because some of their picks, they're quite standard, not standard team, whereas the likes of Meat is boosted, they've got a lot of draft opportunities, especially on the side of Meat Shield, because they're quite a diverse jungle player.
Yeah, there's a massive amount of champions that, you can play Trundles and Mumus, Wukongs, all things that are available. Rek'Sai is also floating in the background of both these guys' champion pools, just got a little bit of a buff, been changed up to be a much better fighting champion. Should be really interesting to see. I do personally really enjoy the Rek'Sai, so fascinated to see if we can see one of those in the game. At least we saw something other than the Wukong Vi matchup in the jungle. That's kind of all we've been seeing for the past, 3-4 months at this point?
Yeah, it's obviously you obviously had earlier this year, opting for the Amalkais and the Gragas, but Vi and Wukong obviously being those pivotal picks that most teams opt for indefinitely. But going into these next games, I feel as if you're gonna have to try and ban that off X Trigger, because they were one of the leading stars with TRSA in those wombo combo comps. Then if you're banning the Wukong and the Vi's open, that's another route. So I feel as if both teams are gonna have to reassess draft, because I feel like some of those bans weren't placed very well, other than maybe the Silas ban and the Cog ban. So we'll just obviously going into game two, which will be getting up for you shortly. Any thoughts going after game one? What do you want to see from both sides?
I think if you are the side of meters boosted, things are feeling pretty good. Over on the side of Centurion, though, you had a composition that worked into the late game, but you just allowed yourself to fall too far behind to early ganks. A little bit better warding, be a bit more careful, and come into this mid game not behind, and things should look a lot better.
I definitely agree on that, and we saw signs of life from both teams. Both teams were like, "Yeah, we're going to pick up the pace," and then they fell behind and they picked the pace back up. And Meters Boost is obviously coming out on top, but like the Centurions, they showed very nice understanding of how each other works and how to layer themselves. While on the sides of Meters Boosted, they were quite disorganized, but it worked out for them. Having Kyoya cause ruckus and Meat Shield picking up quite a nice couple of resets and then letting their backline completely do their own job, that worked for Meters Boosted. So maybe a difference in strategy from the sides of Centurions. They had that uniform type playstyle, and they might have to adapt that going into a second game.
Quite possibly. We'll see if they're able to adapt that coming into a second game. Or if we're just going to see Meters Boosted take a quick 2-0 sweep. We're just going to throw it to a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute. Foolish child.
Welcome back, everybody, to Valent League. We're here for game 2 between Meat is Boosted and Cnturion. Meat is Boosted taking game 1 in maybe what was a back and forth game. We're obviously seeing Meat is Boosted transition into the blue side of the map and Cnturion now to the red side of the map. I am Matt. I'm joined by Bloxer going into game 2.
There we go. Alright, we're seeing the exact same bands as last time around. Meat not wanting to be able to see any of the Pike or the Lissandra because the Cogmort and the Zeri come off of the board as well. Silas once again banned. Clearly, absolutely nobody on the side of Cnturion wants to be seeing any of that.
Yeah, and obviously me boo taking away that Silas just so you're not seeing the funny support picks we did see in the Bel'Veth. Obviously the Olaf being taken away as well because Kyoya dominant performance on Olaf from game one. So obviously that's a big threat from the side of Centurion. They don't want that on the board.
Oh, they do not. Mumu going to be first picked right here. He's been adjusted a little bit. He's not quite as strong as he was previously, but still going to be a brilliant pick, jungle and support. So use your pick however you want to, keeping it flexible. Misfortune, not an AD carry that we've seen so much recently, has got some slightly different builds at the moment. You can go lethality, you could go more on hit, anything you really want to do with it, and the amount of poke damage that you can lay down during that laning phase can make it a pretty scary opposition.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with the Yomu's nerf, Misfortune, going a bit down in priority with that lethality build. We're just going to see, obviously, what they opt into. Trundle being picked up from the side of Centurion. It's a very nice pick into some of these tankier compositions going into the Yumumu. It makes sense. We're just going to see what Mimi Shield and Ket decide to opt into. So, obviously, going off the back of last game, we're already seeing very, very different priorities. And the Ezreal being picked up for the likes of Chi could also go into the side of Cat. But this is something I've seen before in previous games from the likes of me, opting for that Talia with the Ezreal.
See what this next pickup is going to be alongside the Ezreal. You like to pair it with either something roaming that you could just move around the rest of the map, or something pretty aggressive in order to make the most of that mid-game spike. Janna is the sort of thing you can just pair alongside an
Yeah,
Ezreal. You don't necessarily want to be finding that 2v2, and it does say that the Amumu will at least be into the jungle, so you're pretty certain on where things are actually landing for meters boosted.
yeah, and obviously that super safe bot lane of Ezreal Janna. It's going to be so hard for Trundle to find anything, with a disengage of Ezreal and Janna together. That combination, it's like you're breaking into Fort Knox. You can't actually find a pick onto Ezreal. He just eats away. You can't find a pick onto Janna. Just ours. The Camille now. This is the interesting conversation. Is that going into the support role or is that going top?
Quite possibly. It could well be a support right now. Trundle technically can go into support jungle or top lane. We're expecting it to be into jungle. It's one of the picks that Drigger likes to play most of all. And then for Silas, he really likes to pick up either the Silas, the Belveth that we saw last game, or the Camille in the support role. Camille Misfortune, I gotta say, it's not something I've seen too much previously, but if that
Although
is the way we go, I wanted to discount the Belveth last game and I was proven wrong, so I will not put out any judgment quite yet. We're going to see the Victor off of the board, the Malphite leaving too. Clearly, the Malphite put a little bit too much impact on the last game, and meters boosted, don't want to have a repeat.
yeah, definitely. Obviously, he's boosted. Getting that Malphite banned out. They're not going into this a Moo Malphite combination, which
Oh,
we could have
God.
seen. So, that would have been a bit dangerous. But yeah, I can see
Yeah.
this Camille being drafted both to the top or the bot side. Vigar being taken away from the likes of 905 was very impactful, with those easy picks and easy baby cages. So we're just going to see, obviously, from the side of Centurions, what do they actually go into? What do they opt for in these final two picks? Obviously, they're going to pick once and then pick again. So we'll just have to see what they're going for. The Ornn obviously means the Camille's going to support role. I can see it happening. Ornn is in a very, very, very nice spot going into the top side of the map. So easy pickup
Yeah.
from like the Centurions.
You're perfectly happy whatever your matchup is with the Ornn. Even if you fall massively far behind, you will always be useful, and it means that you will 100% outscale your opponents because you will always have access to those ornaments, an extra 1,100 gold worth of stats. Swain, I've seen it popping up more and more recently. The ability to drain the opposition and just turn into a big unkillable ball in the middle of team fights alongside an Amumu can work really well, and it means that your mid laner is able to get pretty aggressive and step up, which is great when you've got an Ezreal Janna who want as much space to play around with as possible.
Yeah, I very much like the size of the meat.
Ooh.
Meat is boosted. Kyoya, if they're opting for some of these carry picks, I did see the Alawi flash there. They might just opt for the Cassante or the Scion. The Scion will go very, very nicely. So this Scion from Meat is boosted. It's so well rounded and well put together. They have the disengage, they have the re-engage, they have that survivability, and it's something that it's a force to be reckoned with because once they get those items scaling, because they're very opting into this scaling composition, it's going to spell danger for the side of Centurions. Seeing what Centurions picks up on their last pick, LeBlanc is not something we see regularly in the forms of competitive play. We'll see what they actually pick up, though. Going into Sway, LeBlanc is what it is.
Okay. LeBlanc makes a lot of sense when you're into an Ezreal because Ezreal has one ability to jump away, whereas LeBlanc just can follow and follow and follow with all of those distortions. It is decent into the Swain matchup as well. You outrange the Swain by just a little bit and have plenty of ability to jump away from that never move that he can be throwing at you. However, like you said, the composition is a little bit better rounded out of Meat is Boosted right here. You've got such big tanky threats up towards the top side, well rounded between the AD and AP. Ezreal, with this Trinity Force build, should be able to shred through the Ornn and Trundle too, in a way that previously he would have struggled with a little bit. Plenty of squishy targets as well to hit with all of those Qs and Ws. For the side of Centurion, they've got a composition that can teamfight relatively well, but you're more looking for a pick with the Camille and the LeBlanc onto somebody to kick off your teamfight.
I feel as if they're aiming for either to pick off this Janna or Ezreal. That's the only really options they have unless Trundle starts to build that early lead. The LeBlanc, as you said, going into this Ezreal quite nicely is a nice matchup into the Swain. And I can see the combo they're going for in the bot. Obviously, with the Camille arm mixed into the bullet time, it can actually be quite a devastating combo. Ezreal won't be able to E out of it. Janna won't be able to disengage out of it unless they have R. So I can see that working out. But I do like Meteor's Boost's comp so much more than the side of Centurion. Centurion, they have maybe a specific game plan with the picks they're going into, but for likes of Meteor's Boosters, you just have to play your champions to a good standard, and I feel as if the comp runs itself.
Indeed. Taking a look at some individual matchups, I mean, where else are we going to put our eyes towards? Ezreal Janna, pretty basic, pretty boring. Misfortune Camille is not a duo that I've seen particularly often, but you can
I don't
see
think
the
I've ever
merits of
seen
it.
it.
No, I can't say I've ever seen it too, but grab someone in the Hextech Ultimatum, make it so that they can't actually leave away from that bullet time out of the MF could work quite well. You've got some CC set up as well. Misfortune pokes out quite nicely. You do need to be careful though, because that is a ranged and melee versus double range with the Janna Ezreal. You can see the constant tornadoes coming through, making Camille's life a little bit miserable when she's actually trying to get in. So you're going to have to be a little bit careful in this matchup. Swain LeBlanc, these are mid laners poked at each other quite a lot, but without the supports and the junglers getting involved, they didn't get too much done during the previous game, not until we came to the actual team fights and skirmishes. And top lane, it's a wet noodle fight. I mean, I know the
This is the
Ornn can
most.
just blow somebody up, but it's a Scion. If a solo kill happens up there, yeah, something's gone wrong.
That's definitely what I 100% want to be watching. Sion and Ornn staring at each other for the next 20 minutes of this game. But no, as you said, bot lane is going to be where it's at. I feel as if a Mumu's got, Misfortune painted out on a wanted poster. They're definitely going to be hunting down and removing Camilla and Misfortune from the game. It's going to be definitely on LeBlanc, though. LeBlanc's roams are going to be pivotal, especially when helping down when Camille hits 6. So I do feel as if going from game 1 with kind of the sloppy team fights and, both teams going front to back, but with certain pick potentials, I feel as if it's a very different draft, especially from the side of Meat is boosted.
Yeah, they've got a draft that needs to work together. You want your Amumu to get in first, land that Curse of the Sad Mummy, then your Scion can come in, add the Swain on top, Ezreal chipping away from the sides, Janna keeping people healthy. Meteor's boosters have drafted themselves a composition that needs to work around itself, which is pretty terrifying because, like you said, their composition was able to play more individually last time around, and those team fights were still pretty messy. If they're able to clean it up, though, this composition should run it through. Whereas Cnturion, they've got more of a pick composition, whereas last game, they played really well around those team fights and only lost mainly because the Olaf got a little bit out of control. Do need to watch top lane. Will Kyoya be able to get massively far ahead? I mean, if he manages to on a Scion, then yeah, that's game over. But he's not exactly been put in a position to carry like he was last time around. It's much more on Cutis Ket and Chi to be able to actually carry this game.
I feel like that's a good shift to have, though, because last game ADCs were quite quiet, and it's going to be nice to see both ADCs opting to, be the pivotal points of the team compositions. Let's have a look at some of these runes. Yes, it is right. Camille bot with the press, the attack. It's something you don't see every day in League of Legends. Amumu opting instead of the Conqueror to go for an aftershock, going for a tankier build, which is very nice to see. Janna, obviously, Glacial Augment. It's quite standardized runes, Misfortune running first strike, so it's nothing too out of the ordinary until you look at the Camille.
It's the sort of composition where you're like, oh yeah, normal, 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 normal. What the?
Yeah, that's a bit of a yikes. But, this is Silas. We've seen the Belveth support. We know they're a Silas support advocate, and Camille is also in their arsenal. So we're just going to see who comes out top going into game 2. Obviously, Meat is boosted, sitting very, very comfortably, and Centurion is going to have to put on a hell of a fight to try and come back in this series.
They really are got to step up right now, find a way to get back into this series and really put themselves ahead. Now, the more
Yeah.
standard team composition, all sat on top of each other, meters boosted. Not going to find anybody. If somebody had decided to go for a late invade, it would have just been insta-death. That is not a level 1 that you want to walk into with meters boosted. Instead, just a 5-point stance coming out of Cnturion, and things gonna start nice and evenly. It looks like Meat Shield wants to start down towards this bottom side, make his way top.
Yeah, I feel as if that's maybe Meat Shield is trying to opt into maybe an early pick onto the Ornn, but I don't feel as if it can work. Early game Ornn, hasn't got those items, it's still quite tanky. LeBlanc here setting up vision, so they know now that, Amumu's going to start on this bot side. They're starting, though, on Raptors. Obviously, that W doing a lot of damage if they opted for the E also. It's quite a nice clear path to have. So we're not going to see an explosive start, which I think we saw from last game, where the Belveth roams up to mid just like 3 minutes. So it's going to be hopefully a slower paced game that maybe both teams can ease themselves into.
Yeah, quite possibly, but at the same time, there's still the possibility of Silas just going flying up into this mid lane on the Camille. Camille's decent at a roam when she's in top lane. In support, there is still that possibility. However, MF, not the kind of AD carry you just want to leave by herself. She's very immobile, very squishy. Versus a Janna, Ezreal could get chunked out quite badly, and so I can imagine Silas Cow gonna stay down here, lands a little bit of damage, but this shouldn't turn into too much.
You say that, but then Silas Coward kind of just prodded with the knife leg straight into Chi and took down half a HP. And you were saying earlier about, the NF poke. I feel as if that's going to get quite risky even into Ezreal Jano. Seeing, top lane slapping each other with wet noodles. It's going to be like this for most of the game. We're just going to see who else comes out on top. If you got your junglers coming up to this top side, it could shift, especially with low health balls coming in already. But I do want to see this Trundle maybe support the Ornn, but not focus into it. I feel like the LeBlanc needs to get ahead, so you can sort of hold the bot, which 905 seems to be comfortably doing, chucking down Ket very early into this game.
And the top lane matchup's also going to be, hang on, bit of fighting in the jungle.
Bit of fighting in the jungle, a bit of fighting in bot lane. Q, the Coward here, getting taken very low, had to flash away, heal was popped. And, Ghost was also popped to the side of Chia. A bit of over-aggression. Didn't feel like you need to pop the Ghost here. Kyoya here, massive wave shoving in and trying to force TRSI to, fall behind so that those ornaments can't come in as quickly. But overall, it's what I expected. The Camille goes in, gets choked out, and then Ezreal and Janna just sitting very, very nicely.
Sorry, hang on. We've still got fighting going on in the jungle. Meat Shield's just going to die instantly.
There's Cat here. It's a 2v2. Trigger here, getting quite low. W comes out. Kyoya flashing on. Q just kept picking up another kill. 905 sitting here with a red buff, trying to actually get the W back off cooldown to escape. And overall, an early aggression from the side of Trigger, finding Meat Shield to get first blood.
He was stood in the opposition jungle for so long. Meat is boosted, pushing themselves.
They're not giving us time to
there.
breathe, though, and Coward here,
Wow.
finding a nice pick. And TRSI finding a nice shot on Kyoya, but that's not what I expected. Camille straight out of spawn. Finding a very nice E onto Cutest Cat. Gets 905 a very nice 2-0 early lead.
And that's not what you want to have happen as Meat is boosted. You do not want to be feeding more kills into a LeBlanc because a LeBlanc can really run through a map, blow somebody up. Ezreal, sure, he's not that immobile, but he certainly is squishy if you can get right on top of him. And once you get that LeBlanc roaming around the rest of the map, it just makes pushing up, finding any players increasingly difficult. Started out all of those plays by Trigger going into the opposition jungle, pushing forwards, and while Meat got taken out, it was then a decent return. But 905 coming out with 2 kills from all of these plays. TRSI needs to be careful here.
TRSI, obviously, the movement opting to the gank was exactly what you said. Flashes out to safety with 905 here. Roam time is very, very nicely. I think Meechill's gone over aggressive here. Trying to find the pick on TRSI. Ket just has to retreat there. And a very, very nice pick. 3-0 on LeBlanc. This just gets scary and scarier. Ket having to flash away from Silas Cowards. Silas Cowards here. Show that the Camille support can be everywhere in every dark corner of the jungle. And that's obviously what they were trying to do with the Belva. And it's working quite nicely with the Camille.
This Camille play is very nice, and we wondered right at the start of the game, would he roam around, would he just stay with the AD carry? Well, Wellesley seems perfectly happy to just absorb the 2v2 pressure, hasn't even fallen behind in CS. You can see Kes trying to bullying him out, but not working that well for the minute, and Sire's Coward on his way back down already. The fact that Wellesley's keeping himself even is really important in this matchup, because if you let the MF fall behind, it can get a little bit risky, but you want to get this Camille roaming.
Definitely, and once that Camille started roaming, it's helped LeBlanc get such an early lead, trying to force Cutest Cat out of the laning phase indefinitely. I feel as if we're going to see the Medjai's opted into, as we see, you know, that's the disengage from Kez though. That's the power of the Janna. I feel as if, you know, Chi getting very aggressive onto Wellesley, pops down the control wall, just awes them to death. Another fight going into the top side, the TR side takes down, Tornado comes down, Silas Coward getting very low here, Chi picking up a double kill sniper from Ezreal. Overall, all over the map, there's fights everywhere. It's quite brutal, you know, TRSI finding advantage onto Sion, but then on the bottom side of the map, Chi picking up an easy double kill.
Double kill right onto Chi. That's another place where gold is exactly wanted. Heat Shield just about going to miss that bandage toss. 2 kills into your Ezreal, who's building towards that Trinity Force, deals a ton of damage, going to be able to just run through people. Meat Shield though.
Trigger here might have just found an opportunity. He knows Meat Shield does not have flash and just procs the lethal tempo and clubs him to death. So Meat Shield being kind of a leak inside of his boosted's composition. Oh, I thought this Amumu might have, you know, find a lot of picks, find a lot of potential, especially when they get 6, but they're kind of just giving away very, very simplistic kills that, you know, shouldn't really be happening this early into the game.
Yeah, no, Trundle's in a much stronger position right now. Also going to be very impactful when you're up against an Amumu, when you're up against a Sion. That's a lot of resistances to steal off of that Subjugate ultimate. So going to be in a strong position, and Amumu can be so good. Get into the backline, and when you've built a little bit of burning damage as well as being tanky, you can really change the way that a fight goes. But if you're this far behind, you're just pretty squishy at this point, and it's been started by Drigger just not allowing Meat Shield to be able to sit and stand in these jungle. He's never allowed to just farm up and get himself ahead. He's falling behind in terms of kills, keeping up in CS though, which is impressive.
Drigger here finding a fight onto Cutest Cat. Of the hope of 905 gets the stun down, but they're just going to try and time this Swain ultimate out. Drigger here's someone I really want to bring up, because in the previous game on their Wukong performance, they were, you know, they were the one that pulled the trigger, and they showed, you know, that dominance, that leadership when leading a team fight, and they're showing it here now, trying to get that lead on the Amumu, and forcing their way to try and, you know, boost their team's performance. Kyoya here, finding a very nice couple of trades on TRSIs. 905 here, finds the stun, bullet time comes down. Camille, I think, missing stun there, so it wasn't optimized at all. And it's the struggle of this bot lane. You feel as if you have to layer that ultimate with, you know, Camille. What was we? 905 getting aggressive here. That's a burst kill straight down onto Cutest Cat. This LeBlanc is online, 4-0. I want to see this Medjai's pulled out, because with the performance they're having now, they can just lead this game on kills.
Really can do, and as the LeBlanc, you're unlikely to die. One of the best pickups that you can find definitely is a Medjai's. Be thinking about it right now, still just sat on a lost chapter, and
have him back though in 2 kills.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, still dealing so much damage despite the fact that they haven't managed to base. Likely going to be pretty close to a full completed item. Ult's going to be popped out of TRSI, and that's just in an attempt to survive at this point. Kyoda gonna get this kill.
Wow, Kyoya, they're layering the CC quite nicely. I think TRSI could have just popped the ultimate and disengaged, but thought as if they could find a kill opportunity with the brittle stacks. Obviously, Kyoya, knowing that damage accountability, and just took down TRSI quite easily. So, you know, those teams are trading blow for blow. I'm not really seeing too much of an advantage. Obviously, that LeBlanc is going to become scarier and scarier. You know, that Ezreal's going to have a target pin on his head for the rest of the game. So we'll just see how that transitions. Ludens at 9 minutes. That's terrifying.
Yeah, that is truly terrifying. Right now, Cnturion absolutely pounding their way towards getting us into a Game 3. I wouldn't mind. This has been a pretty insane series so far. It's only about a 1k gold lead right now for Cnturion, though they're not out of the woods just yet, but it's the kind of early game that they were looking to have happen. So, Swain, when he falls behind, can feel just a little bit useless, same with Amumu, and both of these champions haven't had a particularly good early game. All of a sudden, your Sion's getting a solo kill top, and you've really got a split map situation where the top side of the map is working out just great for Cnturion, whereas Meat is boosted, having to fight round the bottom side. Will Ezreal be able to carry?
We're seeing a pick trying down to Cutest Cat. Knight ticks down, gets one. Meat Shield here trying to recover anything that they can, and it just doesn't get through. you know, this Camille pick, although we were so confused by it, it's coming in and bringing out all the
Yeah.
benefits that this LeBlanc has, and it's really nice to see. But LeBlanc obviously picking up the assist there, and the Sheen picked up from Camille just boost that damage so heavily. And it's what I wanted to see from maybe Meteors boosted. They have to try and flow into their composition. They have to get the Swain bird stacks. They have to get this Amumu to at least 2 items. Get those burns down. The only one that's really seen any advantage is this Ezreal, because now that Ornn's picked up a solo kill, had that assist, they're quite even, although the Scion does win out on the health eventually. So it's good to see which team can, transition the comp forward, because right now the MF, is a little behind from the Ezreal, but the rest of that top side of the map is so strong. We've seen 905 here have a trade onto Q, cat just half shots with one combo.
And Swain's not a particularly squishy champion. Obviously, he doesn't have any health at this point in the game, so not going to be at the tankiest point that he eventually get to, but still being half health already by LeBlanc is a terrifying proposition, and it's more scary because Chi is your main carry right here. You have to just trust that 905 won't insta-burst him.
Yeah, 905 getting a bit too risky with that trade, cutest cat. Try to just survive any best way they can. They're already 1 and 3, but something I wanted to bring up is this MF has picked up Yomu's, and is somehow in a 1v2 lane. It's still ahead on CS. You'd think with the Camille roaming down so much, Gian would force that pressure a lot more, as we see, top lane tanks fighting as it is. Yeah, but you think MF would be behind on a safe lane like Ezreal Janna, but they're not. They're ahead. They've got their first item, and I feel like in a team fight now that Camille has 6, that's another danger button you've got to watch out for.
You just have got to be careful. Both these teams really feeling quite close to each other, despite the fact there is a 2k gold lead right now for Cnturion, and they've just been working around this lead really nicely. Play around 905. It's the only member you need to think about for the minute. Lethality onto this MF. It's just a little bit of icing on top. It's also going to be that Divine Sundra for Drigger. It's the kind of build that you just want to take so that somebody could deal with Kyoyo, because 905 sure as heck is not bursting him out. Wellesley with a lethality build is also not going to be able to get through a Scion, as...
You see 905 gets a solo kill under tower. Quicks pulls the trigger. That's the LeBlanc coming fully into fruition with the Hextech, with the alternator right now. That burst damage just gets so much increased. And I can see what, the side of Meteor's Boosty was going for. They were trying to opt into getting a pick onto the MF with 3 members strong, but, I think Wellesley sniffed something out. They played so safely and so professionally that they just didn't overpush their lead. They just knew that Ezreal wasn't alone and there was a Mumu sneaking around. And overall, Centurion's looking so much more cleaner from the sloppy side that we saw them last game.
They were not playing that nice, clean, collected style that we are all of a sudden seeing. And at this point, as meat is boosted, you need to find a way to shut down this LeBlanc. But I've seen far too many games where a LeBlanc gets a couple kills in the early game and just straight up does not die. Not a single time.
Seeing a dive actually go into the area. This is the combo I was talking about. Yeah. The ultimate from Camille into the MF ult. It's just so much damage. Drigger picking up the kill, but 905 in a very nice position. Trying to pick down Kez. Gets tornadoed up though. The root still comes down. General comes through. We've seen a fight onto the top side of the map too. TRSI and Curia going at it. Mimic Shield gets put down low. Swain here with a very nice ultimate, trying to find any pick they can. Does not hit the E. Still draining onto Drigger, but I feel as if the disengage is just there from the side of Cnturion, but they're still fighting. 905 here still in the Swain ult. Mimic Shield pops down the ult, trying to take on Drigger. Drigger's still tanking tower. 3-man Centurion's very, very low. 905 here.
Oh!
Still in the backside. Stabbed a Mumu in the back under tower. 905 kind of untouched through that whole fight and just picks up an easy kill in the end. And TRS and Curia, I think they were fighting that whole time. It's still none of them have fallen.
Yeah, very low health bars here, but down in the bottom side, like you said, 905 just was not touched, able to weave his way through this team fight, playing incredibly well. And Chi was the main carry, and as soon as attention was actually directed onto him, he was killed very quickly. Ezreal, sure, he's a mobile carry with that arcane shift, but it doesn't matter, not when you're in that Hextech ultimatum, and not when there is a LeBlanc hunting for your head. It's such a scary position to have an Ezreal in, and Ezreal is not one of those hyper carries. He doesn't scale infinitely into the late game. Ezreal scales proportionally to how much ability you have to get on top of him, and Cnturion have a ton of ways to get on top of him. Oh,
yeah,
cutest cat
seeing
needs to
a
be careful.
fight here coming onto the bot side. 2 TPs come out. I feel like it's going to be a 3v2 brawl now. Kyoya here just trying to bodyguard Cat away, but TRSI misses the slam into the wall. 905 though bursts his swing completely, and that's the power of LeBlanc we're seeing. Kyoya here, what can you do? I feel as if you're the only one that can survive this LeBlanc's torment. Kez here finding an easy over onto TRSI. Another Scion Q hits onto TRSI. TRSI, you know, is very, very tanky right now, even though he just has the Sunfire. So, very nice play from the side of Cnturion. Opted into hitting that TP as we see Chi here. You know, getting very, very picked on by this Camille. And it's unfortunate to see. You feel as if the safe pick at Ezreal could be just so fine. And then the threat of a Camille ult just completely shifts your game plan. It's 95 here. Goes onto both members and gets... That's unfortunate to see the easy Mew Mew Q. And what does he follow suit? This is a bad fight from the side of Cnturion, over pushing their lead and getting too over aggressive. I feel as if they were waiting for Silas to pull the trigger and they just couldn't.
Yeah, just getting way too far forwards. 905 getting stunned up underneath the turret. Great reaction times on Mimi's shield to be able to pop that bandage toss and stop 905 in his tracks. That's a huge shutdown as well. It did go over onto Mimi's shield, perhaps not the most important person to have picked that one up, but still, it shows that there are signs of life.
We are seeing another fight go down. General is opted for as TRSI here in the back line. Cutest Cat, though, has the scaling, puts down another shutdown onto the Trundle. Silas Coward say maybe getting a bit too aggressive. Maybe Mitchell comes down with a beautiful movement while Swain here on a double kill. TRSI.
The Swain!
I have over push and there's a triple kill. Picked up from the side of Cutest Cat. Comes online after being in a deficit for so long. That's gotta feel bad from the side of Cnturion.
Don't fight the Swain during the demonic ascension. It's one of the most...
Wow.
Okay, bye then, Kez.
Sorry to interrupt, but actually going back in on Cutest Cat, the overaggression though is punished.
Wow.
That was... I don't know what the thought process is.
Is it worth it to burst a support? No.
They got the pick onto the Jannon and they were out. They went back in.
Yeah.
So,
it's
but
not worth it.
Apologies for interrupting you, but 905 here, maybe showing that decision making with that lead isn't going hand in hand.
No, a little bit too over-aggressive, and that, after not dying for 50 minutes into the game, is 2 quick kills in just as many minutes. And it shows that there is still signs of life in Meat is Boosted. Swain, once he can get online, once he's in that demonic ascension, can run through people. Leandri's now completed, got another blasting wand as well, and will be a massive threat in the backline. I was surprised by how much damage he did to this Trundle as well. Trundle not particularly tanky with this build. You know, it's going for a little bit more damage, trying to get through this Scion more than being just an immovable meat shield. But at the same time, is no squishy. Still got shredded through by this Swain. And so it's really going to be on 905 to be able to blow up Swain, stop him from being able to just heal through that demonic ascension.
You're exactly right. It is on 905, but I feel as if now that Swain has a couple items online, probably has quite a few soul stacks stacked up, it's going to be harder to lock this Swain down. And Ezreal picking up another, 2 kills is 4-1 and 2 right now. I feel as if this is where Meteor's Boost's competition comes into play. They have their carries on quite a comfortable lead. You know, LeBlanc is still definitely ahead, but within a team fight, Swain can be quite a pivotal piece. So it's going to be on, Meteor's Booster to try and force their composition, form that death ball around this Ezreal and Swain, and hopefully, force out this LeBlanc. If LeBlanc can't get onto Ezreal and Swain, it's game over. That's how I think it's going to go. Although I do see Wellesley with this lethality, once a couple more items comes in, could be a bit more of a tool in these team fights, but we're just going to have to see how each side scales. Because right now, if you're Centurions, I would be worried, because the scaling on meat is boosted. It's quite, terrifying.
Yeah, you're kind of feeling okay about yourself because you have those ornaments coming through once the Orn hits level 14 2 times. You just get gonna pop the Demonic Ascension.
I feel as if TRSI has the damage here, though. The healing, though, is quite crazy, and it's just another fight going down. And Wellesley actually gets picked down here. Swain actually wins out on TRSI. I did not expect that. The healing came through, and the burn damage completely shreds down the Orn. And 905 here is getting chased down by Kyoya. Flashes in. I feel as if that's not the right play, buddy. Can just be away, but this is the Scion ult. This is the CC chain locked on. You have to feel, but no, the ultimate coming down from LeBlanc. And overall, all over the map, it's the same thing as game 1. There's fights everywhere, and from the side of Meat is boosted, they found a couple of advantages.
Yeah, they're all going in Meat is boosted's favour, and this could be a little bit risky here. Not too much damage coming out of Kyoya and Meat Shield.
Although Trigger here wants to find a bit more. Kyoya might get rooted here by the LeBlanc. Should just go down. He's just going to try and farm the wave, get those health stacks up, because they know Drigger, once they pop, that lethal tempo, they're a force to be reckoned with. And overall, Kyoya getting a bit too over-aggressive with that ult.
Yeah, you can see the idea, though. You're looking for this Rift Herald. You would like to keep the most impactful member of your opposition as busy as possible. The flash was maybe too much to commit, but using the ultimate to just try to keep 905 away from your team does make sense. And down in the bottom side, you can see just how much damage Cutest Cat did. I wondered who was going to be able to deal with this Ornn. Ornn is a massively tanky champion, and there's nobody who's really just dealing consistent, sustained damage. You know, when you're against a big tank, you want somebody to just slowly shred through. That's not what they have here, except all of a sudden, Swain just able to keep burn damage through. The Leandri is doing absolute work right now, and Cutest Cat is absolutely the strongest member of Meat is Boosted right now. Terrifying and needs to be dealt with. Cnturion, though, 905 not finding that same success that they had in the early game. With 20 minutes into the game, Baron has now spawned. Last time Cnturion tried to find a couple of sneaky Baron plays. Will they be looking for the same thing again?
They're going to have to opt into it, and obviously, with my surprise, I was completely caught off guard with the fact that Swain won that, as we see Cowards here trying to find a pick on Shannon, but that disengage with the tornado is so pivotal, and look how much damage from the Ezreal. Now that they've got the Mana Zane completely stacked up with the Trinity Force, that Sheen passive with the Trinity Force, with this completely fully stacked Mana Zane, it's an Ezreal shredding show. Once, you know, Ezreal starts getting those Qs, get those stacks built up, I feel as if TRSI and both Trigger, they can't stand in front of this firing line, as we see 905 here maybe getting a bit too aggressive. Curio here missing down on the E, and Mimik's Shield trying to find a bandage toss. They can't find it, but that's what I really want to see. Optimizing into this Scion from Mimik's Shield, trying to get him as far ahead as he can to try and match TRSI in tankiness, because we know that TRSI can actually fall. You know, Swain just showed it beautifully.
Yeah.
So I feel as if if you're Curio, stack up that health and try and just face tank 905. I feel as if that's the only member that can do this right now.
Big push in the top lane, manages to pick up one tower. 905 is still threatening, but not going to be able to find any picks right here. Once again, 4 members around this Baron. Cutest Cat down in the bot side does have teleport, but I think it would be a little bit over aggressive to go towards this Baron. Not going to have the fastest Baron for either of these teams. If one team is going to be able to shred through it fastest, it is Cnturion, though. So Meat is Boosted, just going to back off, land a couple of wards. They've done very nice warding towards their top side of the map into the river, and a couple of deep potential teleport wards. If you can get Swain on a teleport or Scion, that can be absolutely huge. That Demonic Ascension, you know, that can really change up a team fight if you can get it in a nice back position to be able to flank in. Straight front to back, though, still works for the Swain, so Cutest Cat has got a lot of different options when it comes to these team fights.
Well, that's a lot of weight on Cutest Cat's shoulder. They've got to show that, you know, that Swain dominance. They've got to show that over-aggression and confidence to try and make it work. And the side of Centurions, they obviously fear the Swain and the Ezreal right now, but I feel as if they can find tools to stop it. We haven't seen much of Wellesley. They've picked up Collector and Yomu, which is interesting item choices. So maybe if they can just find that choke point, that hold where the Camille MF combo comes online, I feel like that's a very nice angle in some of these team fights. But you're exactly right. The side of Meat is Boosted, I feel as if now that this Ezreal and this Swain just have their items, their pivotal items, especially with the Rylai's coming in, it can go either way. Because we're seeing now TRSI can make ornaments, and obviously 905 has got to be the recipient of the first one.
Yeah, it's definitely the way that you're going to be looking to put it down. I can see Wellesley picking one up too pretty early on, but straight towards the Drake right here. 905 going in, spotting this one out, but you have a massive push happening in the top lane. Cnturion are going to get a ton for this one.
Yeah, and obviously the TP coming down from the side of Kiyoya doesn't get interrupted as I thought it might. Oh no, it did get interrupted. That was my bad entirely. No, Kiyoya didn't teleport. Cutest Cat did teleport. So we're seeing that shift now. The fact that they were able to make that snappy decision calling and opt to try and take down that top tower, it kind of put them in an unfortunate situation. Here we see Trigger trying to do onto Curio, but Curio's a lot more tanky than he was 5 minutes ago. Mimik's Shield finally pick onto 905, but that's not the person you want to be chasing. Gets out quite simply. So I think that was overall a miscommunication. I feel as if you took Cutest Cat out of, you know, where the dragon was and put him to the top. It wasn't really the right call because, you know, they just ran away with a, you know, an almost free tower, and that's the decision making I really like to see from the side of Cnturion.
Yeah, going straight towards the Baron right here as Meat is Boosted. He's gonna have TRSI just based. Gonna have to run back in, and this one is getting taken down pretty slowly, fully on vision as well. This is a very bold call.
You've got Curio on the other side of the wall just acting as bodyguard. I feel like they must just get it for free. 905 has just gone into the box. They're not trying to get any advantage. So Meat is Boosted, sneaking in a very, very nice Baron, but what can they apply with it?
Sneaking is a bold way of saying that they did that on full vision, and Centurion just let them have it. I mean, I can understand they were in a bad position, needed to base, get a couple more items, but the fact that no pressure was applied whatsoever, and Meteor's Booster just waltzed up and took it. I mean, I love the boldness of the call, but Cnturion really letting this game slip away from them. They were so strong during the early game, getting up 3-4k gold. It's back down to just about a 1k gold lead, and barely that. It's super close, once again on a knife's edge.
Yeah, it's all on 905 to try and find that pick, get those shutdowns, because right now, Sway's looking quite nice for that 400 gold bounty, same with Ezreal on 150 gold bounty. So if maybe you can get onto the likes of Wellesley or even on Drigger, you might find another opportunity to swing it, but they definitely, as you've said, they've let this, they had this game in their hands, they had it all, they had 905 on a very nice position, they had Wellesley, you know, sitting pretty with the combo, and they just let it slip through their fingers. And as we're seeing another engage come down here, Meat Shield is the recipient of all this damage. Bullet time gets cancelled down though, and that's overall a very nice pick. What can they transition it into though? They take down one Baron. As Kyoya, Tokyo drifting out of the blue. TRSI here pops down the Ornhorn. Cutest Cat though is untouched, undamaged, and is burning the side of Cnturion. What can Cutest Cat do? A bit more damage coming down.
So 905 much is healing.
Oh my word. That's something we want to see. I didn't expect the Janna to just pivot straight onto the Swain, leaving the Ezreal to fend for themselves, but that's what they did. Kez here tracing down the Trigger. We're seeing another fight go down. There's too many fights going at once. As wow, a shutdown kicks on to 905. So that's what I really want to see. The fact that Cutest Cat just completely negated all the burst damage that was put onto them with that healing, especially paired with the general. It just meant that 905 damage was just negated. Wellesley's damage just didn't matter, and Drigger is, you know, forced out of that fight very uncomfortably. Well played by Meat is boosted.
Wellesley just not able to deal any damage. Did end up getting that first ornament. It hasn't mattered. Big fight here. Kyrio's gone too far forwards. The turret will fall though. So, aggressive, got it!
Oh my word! Sniper, you know, Chi there, quite untouched. The fact that in that team fight that they were like not touched at all, is still going. Double kill picked up. One of those Qs very, very cleanly, even through minions. I say that and then they just whiff, but you know, gotta commend Chi in this game. We'll take it. Gotta commend Chi though. The fact that they've been calm and collected, especially with the fact that they have so many things that can make picks onto them. Because the Ezreal is safe, but you've got to have a LeBlanc so scary. So, you know, commends to Chi and especially commends to Cat. They've taken this game back from the jaws of defeat.
And the fact that that fight started out with your Amumu getting caught. Meat Shield just got straight up caught, landed a lovely ult onto 5, but it didn't matter because he was already dead. The rest of the team wasn't there. And then Kyoyo comes to Tokyo drifting in, like you said, doesn't even hit anybody, and then the team fight actually kicks off. And it feels like it's going to go right in the favour of Cnturion. They're 4 versus 5, they're feeling good about themselves. The whole team for Meat Shield, for Meat is boosted, is split. And then you can't deal with Cutest Cat. Cutest Cat has just stood in the middle, and when you're finally beginning to get them low, just pop into that stopwatch and continues to deal that damage. I mean, just a brilliant fight. The only thing is that stopwatch is now broken. There isn't a Zhonya's to replace it. And so there is an opportunity right now to kill onto Cutest Cat. But if you can't take out this Swain, they will just burn you and slow you. And it makes playing these team fights so very difficult.
Exactly. And, you know, Cutest Cat's got to be the focus here. But the fact that they've just been left alone almost in these team fights to just pick up so much health, I don't think 905 has the burst damage to deal with them now. So 905 had this insurmountable lead and hasn't applied it, and that's really difficult to see. So, you know, Meat is boosted, you know, they've got only a 200 gold lead, so it still is quite even. Going into this dragon fight, we're just going to see who comes out on top, and the decision making, obviously, we're seeing a lot of members opt into mid, but we have a trap set up. 905 and Camille working hand in hand. Maybe they can pick up Cat here. They actually burst Cat completely, negate what I was saying earlier. 905 definitely has the damage with the Void Staff.
Really does, and now Meat Shield gonna try to stun up 905, but should be the next one to fall.
Well, the general does buy some time, and maybe it comes down, separates 5-0, but here comes Kyoya. What can they do? Finds the pick onto the Camille. Going down onto Drigger. The MFO is just a zoning tool at that point. Ezreal, though, seeing if they can be safe. TRSI just trying to find his own. 905 comes in, doesn't actually kill Chi. Chi is left quite safely, and Kyrio's here taking a lot of damage unsuspectedly, and Wellesley picking up their 3rd kill, which is, you know, going from 0-3 to 3-4. That's got to be feeling nice, especially when you're picking up LDR and Collector.
Yeah, picking up a couple more kills She is well playing these team fights very well, doing a good job to be able to just survive, but not able to deal enough damage to actually turn the tides of that team fight. And that's the thing. Once you manage to kill Cutest Cat, these team fights get a hell of a lot easier for Cnturion. He is boosted. We're in a pretty good position. They've fallen back down a little bit, and that is now going to be sole point for Cnturion. They are sat in a very nice position at this point. Next one spawning up in 5 minutes. We're going to have the Baron before then. Will Meteor's boosted be able to pull out another right under the noses heist? Or is it going to be Cnturion sending us to a game 3?
Well, either way, it's going to be quite a risky game to play out into. I'm getting deja vu from game 1. This back and forth is quite unnerving. We've seen players perform at very nice peaks. 905 stepping up yet again on one of these pivotal mage picks. But Chi being a lot more vocal, having, almost picked up the... I feel as if they're going definitely into Ravenous here. So once that 4am Ezreal comes down, TRSI is not going to be tanky enough to deal with it. And we obviously saw... My statement got completely revoked when Cutest Cat got bursted by 905, so seeing a TP come out from Cutest Cat, they've actually maybe caught... Yeah, they've killed the jungler here. They might just burst Trigger. The CC layers are here. Meat Shield's kind of waiting for an opportunity. The flash 2-man Moomo comes down. MSO's not as pivotal. Chi picks down Trundle, and then all their focus has turned to TRSI. Full charge Scion, but here comes the TP from 905. Can they get anything down? Meat Shield in the pick. Can they pick him down? Yes, picks down the Amumu, but what else can you find? A sloppy fight going either way. It is a 2-for-1 for the side of Meat is boosted, but the fight still goes on as Kyoya finds a beautiful 2-man full Scion Q. Wellesley is the target there. General comes down. Cutest goes into stopwatch, and Silas is the next pick. Swain here coming in clutch yet again. So that could have gone either way, completely on a nice edge. 905 coming in clutch with a couple more return kills, but overall, Meat is boosted. We see Way here, find 905, but almost gets bursted. Quick, easy trade, flash for Ezreal burn. So we're seeing Meat is boosted here, opt into the final base push. Can they get it though?
You've got a lot of members nearly dead, only going to be able to pick up this inhibitor. Turn around, take the reset. Big props to Kyoya. Hitting a couple of those knockups were crucial. Managed to find a huge play in the previous game on that Olaf. Now on the Scion, very different playstyle, and yet still, that double knockup was pivotal. More than that, Trigger got caught out to start off that fight, and from that point onwards, it just went from bad to worse. The amount of healing and damage that Demonic Ascension could deal. More than that though, Kez. Can we just say, Kez, with this Imperial, just kind of running through. Oh, starting straight onto the Baron, okay.
Obviously, it's going to be another scrappy fight.
Trigger's caught again.
He's caught again. TRSI trying to save him with the ult. Although he's tanking up quite nicely. Cutest Cat, though, has Demonic Ascension activated. TRSI with a nice 3-man knockup, but they're just trying to disengage as Cutest Cat goes into the backline and burning down the likes of Wellesley. And I feel as if this is just the victory lap. They found Wellesley yet again. I thought they almost got out. And 905. And Silas Coward, it's all up to you to defend your base. But look at Camille out of place. 905 having to W away. And Meat is boosted. A very nice team fight. No members fall.
905, super nice start to the game. Died only 3 times in this game. And those 3 times were right back to back to back. And it allowed Meat is boosted to get back into this game. They're just waiting for the minions to walk this one in.
A very nice bandage toss from Meat Shields. But another one hits both in a row. But 905 might find the returning kill. Silas Coward, they found Meat Shield. Can they convert it into anything else? Kyoya tanking up the tower. I feel as if you can't kill Cutest Cat. Demonic Ascension's time is almost coming up. But their target is Chi. If they can burst down Chi, a lot of their damage actually falls. They find it. 905 down. But Cutest Cat here. Demonic Ascension prop. Picks up 2. Triggers the next target. Kyoya here. Tanking down. Forcing the backline to fall away. 905 though goes back into Cutest Cat. Demonic Ascension still active. The healing is ridiculous. The burn is ridiculous. Cutest Cat is godlike.
Not dead.
Oh my word, this is the Cutest Cat show. And 905 falls again. TRSI is the only one left alone. Next is 1 HP. And Cutest Cat take a hat and bow. That was beautiful team fight.
Oh man, once the Swain gets going, the Swain does not stop.
The Swain train.
Wow, that Demonic Ascension just healed and healed and healed and healed. And can we just say that that Ornn was at level 16? There were a ton of ornaments already on the board too. Everybody was sat with extra gold in their back pocket for Cnturion, and it did not matter because they could not kill Cutest Cat. And if you can't get through the Swain, he'll just keep dealing damage into the backline. Once again, being able to go golden this time with the Zhonya's came in clutch. And it feels so bad as Centurion. You're in such a good position to take this series to a game 3. 905 was so strong. You saw how much damage, 31k, easily the most on his team, but it doesn't matter because the couple of times that he got caught, the rest of the team was able to play so well around each other on meters boosted that you couldn't find that pick as the LeBlanc.
Yeah, and obviously I was definitely riding on Centurion to find that comeback, victory. 905 looked so pivotal in the fact that they made so many picks. They had that damage, they had that team comp, solidified. They knew they had to pick. They picked up the Swain, and as soon as they fumbled near that, the Rift Herald fights and within the topside river, it kind of just fell to pieces. Their team comp just crumbled by the fact that this Swain just removes and negates all the healing with that very nice, anti-heal picked up, and the Leandry's damage. I want to see how much Leandry's damage they did, because that burning onto TRSI was just crucial and pivotal. Actually
It,
gonna see some stats here.
yeah,
I
just
feel as
look
if,
at the amount of damage that this
oh
Swain did and the healing too.
yeah, and it's obviously
That
paired with the Janna.
healing.
That's what we weren't expecting. The fact that Janna pops out, Demonic Ascension comes on, and then Swain just becomes a Giga Tank. He just
Yep.
can't be killed.
Damage healed 18,000 as the Swain, which is ridiculous considering just how squishy a Swain is if he doesn't have the Demonic Ascension popped. He doesn't have a lot of health, that you're trying to work through. It's just the pure healing. Absolutely ridiculous plays from everybody. And we have got a winner's interview from Meters Boosted, Kyoyo, who had two great performances, one on the Olaf, one on this Scion. We'll bring him in just a second.
Oh, I've got to commend Kyu, though. Dominant performance twice, bringing for a very nice winners interview. Meat boosted, taking a 2-0 victory over Cnturion. So it's, I think Meat Boost got to pat themselves on the back from, having a very. Moving him now, thank you very much. Yeah, having that game 1, which was back and forth, coming into the game 2 and having that dominant, turn back victory. It's nice to see. Welcome, Kyoya. How are you feeling after a 2-0 victory?
We're going forward in the right way, so to say.
Yeah, and obviously you had two pretty, stand-up performances. Your Olaf plays in that aggression shown was just so, it was so like mind-boggling the fights that you got into, and then switching up to the Scion and showing that, tank performance and bruiser performance. Do you practice that a lot, having to be able to, fill in those roles and still be a dominant player?
I kind of play what if my team needs me to play something else, I can do that. I would say.
Makes sense.
But keep it up and at least win to around 2 series or something to secure the playoff spot. And yeah, we just need to keep the streak going.
And obviously, if you have a dominant performance like you did in this 2-0 victory, you had a couple shaky moments. Games were quite back and forth. Did you feel as if that affected what your game plan was, or that comfortability you showed on the Olaf? Do you think like that just your mindset like that carried through? Because even on the Scion, you made such aggressive plays and you were quite pivotal in team fights. Is that something you're well accustomed to, or do you feel as if that's something you just fill in for your team yet again?
I would say I tend to play a bit aggressive, maybe even too aggressive at times. Like when I died in the first time in game 2, I was just playing a bit too aggressive and should have just spaced but I didn't. And yeah, in game 1 we threw a lot of fights, and ones where we were on Baron, Malphite got a really good ult and aced us. But we kind of knew that if we played our cards right, we could win all fights. So we just didn't really think much about it.
Well, congratulations. Is there anything you'd like to say to anybody who's watching along? Any fans that you've got? Any final words?
I don't know really. Ket wanted to thank our mid laner wanted to thank Branch for camping the lane.
Perfect.
He was very happy about it.
Fair enough. Well, thank you very much, Kyoya, for joining us here, and congratulations yet again to your 2-0 victory.
Thank you.
Well, that was
Well,
a
to
very
close a game out, having meters boosted, have quite a back and forth entry into this series, and then in game 2 completely flip the switch. I wasn't expecting that at all.
No, it was a much cleaner performance out of Meters Boosted. Sure, the early game was a little scrappy, but those late game team fights were played so much nicer in a way that they really hadn't showed us in the previous game. And this team, they said they've been improving week on week, and I can believe it because there's still a couple moments where you're like, oh, maybe you could have done that a little bit differently, but they recognize that they can keep working on it. I can see Meters Boosted being a truly terrifying playoff contending team. And it would be very interesting to see them play again. I've really liked the way that Kyoyo was talking about the fact that they felt pretty chill during all of those games, even when they had a couple of iffy moments, recognizing that, knowing what he can do to improve. Very impressive.
Yeah, definitely. I feel as if when they move on through, they said they were improving and, finding some kind of picks that they, he said he filled quite a lot, and it didn't feel like that was what they showed. They showed quite dominance, and usually from players that you see are filling, they kind of just fill in, they perform to the best of their abilities, but Kyoto just showed complete dominance. So I don't understand why they say they're a fill player. But
Yeah.
any standout players definitely coming from that series, from both sides.
Well, obviously Kyoyo had those pretty impressive performances. Cutest Cat in that final game. Oh boy.
Definitely.
Chilo, the way that he was able to keep that Ezreal just in the game, not dying. When there's a LeBlanc roaming around trying to kill you, target directly on your head, and you don't die particularly often, that's a pretty impressive performance. Over on the side of Cnturion, there were really nice plays during the early game, but just not able to translate that into late game dominance. Something that 905 specifically needs to work on, and I can see that happening. The early game was well played, and just team macro, once they come into the mid to late game, understand where to team fight, who to put forwards, because there are a couple moments where Drigger, for example, got caught out and it just wasn't quite working for them.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with like all the things you've just said. Definitely Kyoyo being a standout player. I've got to commend Kez, on the Janna and the Rakan. Although the Rakan game looked quite shaky with some of their engages, that Janna performance just led their team to very nice, clean fights. Obviously, Chi, quite get quiet in game 1, and then the Ezreal performance just completely steps up with the damage shred, especially along with Cutest Cat. Overall, meters boosted, completely well played, well dominated, especially, coming into a deficit in game 2. And obviously, I hope to see both teams, step it up coming into these later coming weeks. But
Indeed.
yeah, that is all from us though at Valorant League. I hope you've all enjoyed watching. We've definitely enjoyed casting these games for you, and we will see you coming into the next week of the split.